Welcome to the fire tower at Fairview. We're just now approaching the top of the fire tower, and we're going to use our visit today to understand how the shape of the land around the fire tower impacts what's going on around the fire tower. So we're going to scan, do a nice 360 view, and in this time I want you to kind of question, what do you see? What do you notice? What are you wondering? So our chief goal in the fire tower is to understand what would happen to water that was flowing from the top of the mountain that is at the base of the fire tower. And so some important things to maybe consider. Right here is the hill or the mountain that the fire tower sits on. You may notice that right out here, the hill or the mountain section we're currently on kind of stops. Beyond that, there's a higher ridge, and that higher ridge out here is actually separated from our current hill by a little gap or a break. Over to the west of us, we have what is known as Draper Valley. And Draper Valley, if you look closely, looks a lot like a little bit of a bowl as far as shape. You may notice that the land is low compared to the surrounding mountains and hills. Well, if it were raining in Draper Valley, or snow was melting in Draper Valley, what would happen to all that water? Would it just accumulate and fill up, or does it have an exit? Part of our task today is to figure out what happens to that water. An important note about Draper Valley is that from these mountains flows a small stream called Tom's Run that we will investigate later in this lesson. So there is the gap between the two mountains. Hard to see, but we know it's there. And as we move from west, then to north, and now facing east, you may have noticed that the land out here is much flatter, although there's still some rolling hills and some variation to the shape of the land. Well, what would happen to water that is in this valley that we know as the Great Valley or the Cumberland Valley? The direction we're looking right now, which is east, is where Hagerstown would be. Now it's a foggy day and a little hazy, so we cannot see that far. But we know that beyond those clouds on the other side are mountains. The name of that mountain is South Mountain. If you ever travel to Frederick, you cross South Mountain to leave Washington County and enter Frederick County. So now we're looking south, and something important that cannot be seen, but I know is there and you need to know is there. Right over here, kind of at the low point of this valley where I'm pointing at, that is not able to be seen by you and I right now, is the Potomac River, which is the largest body of water that is moving through and in Washington County. And knowing about the Potomac River and where it goes is going to be important to developing our understanding today about the Chesapeake Bay watershed. So now that we've had a view from up here, we will further our investigation to determine where this water actually does go. We will use maps, we will use observations at the base of the mountain, and we will use tools on the iPad to help us to understand where this water flows to and why that matters to all residents of Washington County, Maryland, and even a larger area known as the Chesapeake Bay watershed.